Welcome to the Mechanical Room. A Centrotherm production focusing on all things in and around the HVAC industry. And now, your hosts, Michael Sokaris and Matthew Pryce.
Gentlemen, welcome and thank you for joining us. It is the 5th episode of the Mechanical Room. Time flies. We were just talking about this just before we got online. Man, this year is flying by. Today we've got two things that we want to talk about. Number one, and as always, we have Show Us Your Pipe, our promo for really nice installs. And then we have a manufacturer's rep that is going to join us. Integral part of the value chain and how product gets to market. And again, it's important to understand everything in and around the mechanical room, products, how the products get there. And again, the reps are critical. So Matthew, welcome. Excited to see you. How are things?
Things are, as you said, pretty crazy. It's wild. It's crazy that this is our 5th episode already. But I am excited for this one for the reasons that you've already mentioned. So we're doing something new this time with the Show Us Your Pipe segment. We're going to bring in the guest who was sort of instrumental in bringing that installation to life. Our friend Eddie Dombrowski of California Hot Water Supply, Cal Hot to the initiated, people in the know. Eddie is a friend to Centrotherm and a friend of ours. He submitted these photos that are the winners, and he's going to tell us all about the contractor and where it's located and all that kind of stuff coming up. And he's the first person to be a part of that segment, so that's fun. It's new ground, and hopefully we have a little bit
for us, right? He's gonna tell us all about the job.
Absolutely, it's hopefully something we can expand a little further. I love getting fresh faces. As much as I adore you, Mike, it's nice to get a an outside voice into the room, right? So Eddie's going to come on and do that segment with us and introduce us to a really nice Ray Pack installation. And then, as you mentioned, we have a rep this time around. So we're keeping it with that mechanical room and mechanical room adjacent, addressing and discussing something that we haven't had on yet. So we've had a contractor, literal guy turning the wrenches in the mechanical room. We've had an ad executive who deals with all the different types of people in the value chain that are trying to get their messaging out around the HVACR industry. And then we had the president of Hardy so far, Talbot G, who's of course a distributor organization that sort of oversees and works with pretty much everybody in the value chain, including us. So today we turn to a rep from the Gooding Incorporated, Matt Gritman. He's the NYC Long Island guy for Gooding, and he's going to give us a fresh perspective on what happens for reps as they work as an intermediary between the contractor and the distributor and the manufacturers, sometimes the homeowners. I'm really excited to hear what he's got to say about his part in all of this.
So thank you for that introduction. So let's get into it. Let's bring Eddie on. Let's get him in.
Welcome back to the Mechanical Room. And for this, the May edition of the Show Us Your Pipe segment, we are breaking new ground. We're going to bring in a guest who is instrumental in the installation of this fascinating and interesting and, I will say, well photographed installation here. So without further ado, we're going to welcome in Eddie Dombrowski. He is, I believe, the president, owner, grand poobah, the big cheese at California Hot Water Supply. And Eddie, hey, it's wonderful to see you. Full disclosure, Eddie's a good friend to Centrotherm and a good man. I'm a personal friend, to Mr. Dombrowski, and we'd love to welcome you into the mechanical room here, and love to hear a little bit more about this installation.
Hey, great. Thanks for having me, guys. I really appreciate it, and we're happy to be here. We'd like to talk a little bit about the project that we worked with. That was located at the Cal State University of Los Angeles. The contractor, the engineer that was working on this project was CMI, which is Crutchfield Mechanical Incorporated. The project manager that was working on this job was Luke Emory, and it was the piping job was for a couple Raypack H7206X versus, and it was a 8-inch interflow system that they had the opportunity to put in the system. And getting some feedback from the guys, they were so excited to work with this product. They loved the fact of the pricing. Not only was it great, but it was such an easy installation for these guys to put it in. And they are so happy with it that they're really looking forward to using it in the future and putting on some more projects that they have coming up in the near future.
So what do they normally use, Eddie? Are they normally a PVC user or metal user? What are they using in the past?
Well, that's a great question, Mike, because when I was talking to him, we brought up the fact that he said that not only about the pricing factor, but it's a lot cheaper than, double wall or stainless steel venting. And just think about it from an installation standpoint of view for a contractor, that it's probably cheaper on the workman's comp, because you most likely might get a finger slit or cut based on the stainless steel or V venting that, with Centrotherm, it's a lot easier to work with. And not only is it safer, but time savings, labor-wise for these guys, it's a much better product to be used versus the other guys.
Well, Eddie, your check is in the mail, clearly. No. Obviously, that is all unprompted stuff. The focus really is on the contractors and the hard work that goes into the mechanical room that make the whole installation what it is. And these photos are great, and you can see some great workmanship that goes so far beyond our product. But of course, we want to thank you for those kind words as well. Naturally, we're showcasing the Interflu product on these fine installations, but it's not the only thing that we're concerned with. So, it's just a great job all around. You said this was at the Cal State, is that what you said?
Yeah, Cal State University of Los Angeles is where it's located at.
Fantastic. That's great.
Ship is great. I'm looking at these photos. The support is nice. They put in, some probes, test probe. It's a well installed job. 3 individually run units.
And that is a 10-inch diameter, if I'm not mistaken.
It was actually 8-inch diameter on this
8-inch diameter. So still, in the larger size diameter stuff. So, well, thanks so much. We're so glad you come on and talk about this as its own. You're the first guest we've had on this particular segment. So we thank you for your involvement and the kind words, and also sharing those photos. Are you the cameraman on those pictures?
I am not, unfortunately. So
let's give the photo credit to where it's due. Who did those come through? Is that through the contractor?
That's from the contractor.
Excellent. And his name again is?
Luke Emory with Crutchfield Mechanical. And Calhoun appreciates you guys giving us the opportunity to come on today. Being the Centrotherm guys we are in Southern California, if we can help you out here in Southern California for any Centrotherm products, please don't hesitate to give us a call. We'll be glad to help you guys out with any of your future projects.
All right, so I'm going to clip that out, and we'll have a new radio commercial when we're all said and done there. So we'll be right back with Matt Gritman of Gooding Incorporated. Eddie, you keep it real. Great having you on. Thanks so much.
Hey, thanks for having us. Make sure you send. Hey, thanks for having us, and make sure you guys send out those T-shirts and products for my guys over at Crutchfield Mechanical. They'd really like to have some good Centrotherm stuff.
The swag. They're going to be
sure.
getting some shirts like this, maybe a hat like this. Indeed. They will be well supplied and well outfitted. So thanks again. This has been the May edition of Show Us Your Pipe. Welcome back to the Mechanical Room, and once again, it is time to turn to the tutelage of external forces and welcome in a guest. Today, we're going to welcome in Matt Gritman. I came to know this man based on Instagram, of all places. Instagram in the HVAC community, but that is how I saw Matt posting his installations that he's working with through contractors in the New York City area. Matt works for David Gooding Incorporated. That they're headquartered in Brockton, Massachusetts, with representation throughout New England, New York, Mid-Atlantic states. Matt covers Long Island and New York City, and I guess you get up into Westchester too. I'm going to ask you about one of my favorite breweries that you seem to went to in a bit here. Gooding is an active member in leading state and organizations such as ASA, the Waterworks Association, ASPE, which we are members of as well, and PHCC, which of course we are involved in as well. He's got a resume that is 20 plus years in the plumbing field, 10 plus years as a plumbing business owner, and he's worked for Gooding for 2 years. And the little personal tidbits, you are like some of our own internal guys in as much as you like motorcycles and you are a golf fan. So that is the rundown on Mr. Matt Gritman. We welcome you to the mechanical room. And Mike, say hello to our guest.
Matt, a pleasure to have you on. I guess my first question that I would kick off is kind of an open-ended kind of question statement is, number one, reps are very important to us. They're near and dear to our heart. That is part of our strategy to get product to market. But in your words as a rep, what does a rep do? What is your day-to-day? What are you trying to accomplish as a rep agency?
So as a rep in my territory here, of course, the role as a rep changes, again, depending on your product line. Most of what I do is wholesaler support. I deal with a lot of the larger and smaller wholesalers. We also do contractor support, which again is your main of the business because it is the contractor and the installer that drives your sales. I also do training. We do some technical support again for both the wholesaler and the contractor. And I also do some engineering as far as engineering large jobs and different specs for equipment.
Cool.
So
I guess maybe we should have opened with a kind of a clarifying statement is you are with Gooden, as Matthew said. However, you are not the Centrotherm rep. So
I am not.
We, Matthew and I, of course, are with Centrotherm, and our podcast, though, is specifically around material and how product gets to market. And we, by design, we could have invited any one of our many great reps, but we intentionally said, who's out in the market, does a good job, that is not one of our reps, so it doesn't become a commercial.
Right.
Yeah, indeed. And so thank you so much for being a part of this as well. And like I said at the top, I know of you largely because you're getting involved with the Centrotherm social media as part of a network of growing HVAC, presence on social media, which we love to see those installation pictures and just, on the ground floor media that you help create. And as you know, we gave our Show Us Your Pipe winner was one of your photographs from an installation in, I want to say it was in Manhattan. Do you recall that one? Big City Plumbing and Heating. Can you tell us a little bit about that, how that came about, and your relationship with those guys?
So Big City Plumbing is one of our, top Navian installers, of course. They were doing a job in Brooklyn. They had an apartment building, 39 apartments in the building. They were looking to go to a high efficiency system compared to what was in the building now. So basically we started from the ground up with, figuring out hot water fixtures and then, seeing how much we were going to need to supply that demand.
So did you do a lot of that engineering? And I guess this is a general question for jobs like that. You mentioned engineering. How much do you do? What do you do on the engineering side as you sort of play referee between contractor, distributor, manufacturer?
So as far as the job itself, it starts with, of course, counting up your domestic hot fixtures, what temperature output you're going to need for those fixtures. And then once you have the fixtures, it's literally taking, fixture unit numbers, 2 gallons per minute, and then figuring out how many units you're going to need. After that, I basically put a material list together for the contractor with the basic equipment. I can't give them everything, but I give them their basic stuff. And then, they go from there.
So you're doing mostly capacity sizing then, trying to figure out the diameter of the vent system that goes along with it and the other, associated sizings that go into a job like that?
Correct. And most manufacturers in their manuals will have, venting and sizing charts. And then, of course, it's, making sure it's going to work, the vent lake's going to work, how many elbows, how many turns.
Do you think that the way that the trends in the market are going, do you think that contractors know venting well, or is that something that they need to be, maybe educated a little bit more? I hear venting is the toughest thing on the job. Is that what you see?
Venting is definitely the toughest thing on the job. Before I was an actual rep, of course, with Navian, I was installing Navian for about 10 years. And then becoming a rep, venting is still, even though we're 12, 15 years into the product being in this country, venting is still an issue. And it's not just an issue, Avian. It's an issue across the board with any of the high efficiency stuff. As far as getting spacing and making sure your intake and exhaust are far enough apart. And of course, where the vent is coming out of the building, whether it's a sidewall, rooftop, etc.
So is that more difficult in today's game because the appliances are more efficient and thus it requires a different type of material, and you have to kind of get away from the traditional, or what makes the venting, sort of the difficult wild card, if you will, in that type of installation? And are there any other products that go along with that are also kind of funky as the technology evolves, like, the gas fittings or valves, pumps, etc.?
Well, everything gets sized according to what load you have, as far as whether you're doing straight tankless units, whether you're doing tankless with storage, what size storage tank, what size pump you're going to need for it. Everything kind of gets figured into the equation. The biggest thing I see with venting is you go into some of these older houses, older buildings, you have a centralized mechanical room, and to try to get either your length through the roof or through the outside of the building, then take into account windows. Everything becomes a factor, and that's what's becoming harder and harder. On a new construction job, very easy. On some of the older retrofits, it becomes a little more difficult.
Your team at Gooden, and what do you see in the overall market? But are you doing that quoting, or do you have a team that you hand it off to? How does that system, the team come together to provide service for your contractors?
As far as providing service, we're pretty much doing most of the engineering down here, and then of course with manufacturers, they have their own engineering team, spec drawing, stuff like that. We always have the support and people to turn to for help.
Excellent. So you had mentioned, so obviously we're discussing the specificities, and training is a big part of ironing out any confusion and getting there. So on your fabled Instagram, which by the way, everybody should go and follow, it is at Navian Guy NYC. Lots of great stuff there, including some recent training that you did at the Captain Lawrence Brewing, which is in my neck of the woods, my old stomping grounds, Westchester County. I'm from New Rochelle. That's in Pleasantville, New York. Great brewery. Just tell us a little bit about that training. How do you get that done? Who shows up to that? What do they walk away with? We love training. Obviously, most manufacturers do. You seem to be having good success. Give us some tips.
Well, of course, getting through the pandemic, it's finally good to get out and be able to do some training in person, in public. The webinars are good, but webinars are only going to go so far. And again, guys want to get out and people. As far as a training like that was actually organized by a wholesaler through one of my other partners who handles Connecticut, which is Fred. That was arranged by him through the wholesaler. The wholesaler set up the whole event. And basically the guys came in, they get training, it's free. They got a meal, they got a couple of beers, of course, because it was the brewery.
Did you have any of those beers? Did you get to sample some of the wares there?
I did try a few afterwards.
Afterwards, excellent. All right.
Afterwards, of course.
I am a fan of that place. I've been there a few times. They when you get lucky, you see them. They have some distribution up here a little bit, and sort of in the surrounding areas around Westchester. So it's always a nice treat when you find Captain Lawrence on there. So I would say to contractors or other reps listening here, try to get in on those trainings at the breweries, right?
Listen, we do breweries, we do restaurants, we do outdoor events. There's always some type of different training you can get involved with.
Totally. Yeah. And you mentioned the pandemic. So we're kind of, cross your fingers on the tail end of this. Maybe it's sort of in the rear view now. During that period, how were you doing exclusively webinars? What were you doing differently to disrupt in that weird time where we're all kind of like frozen in the box?
Well, we were off the road, of course, staying in touch with our wholesaler, in touch with contractors. I think everything was shut down for about a month or two, and then people started having to get back out and work. And in the plumbing industry, everybody needs a plumber. It doesn't matter what's going on in the world. You're still going to need a plumber. Things still need to get done. Heat still needs to work. Water still needs to be hot. So any way you look at it, guys, we're getting back out in the field.
What are you seeing from your distributors in your market? Are they back to where they were? Are they back, but in a different way, maybe? How's that look in the field?
The distributors I deal with, it's still a little hesitant. Some places are still taking temperatures, walking in the door. Other places are pretty much open. Some are still, have to wear a mask walking in. But other than that, as far as business is, definitely picked up. And I think with Long Island, especially, it's more of the outflux of everybody from the city that's now buying houses out on the island. Everybody's starting to renovate. And, right now, Nassau County, Suffolk County, the East End especially, out in the Hamptons, the North Fork, everything's busy in construction out there.
So that would be commercial and residential, really.
Correct.
Do you see
And
one?
Go ahead, Matthew. Sorry.
No, I was gonna say, do you see one a little bit more aggressively returning than the other? Is the residential popping back now because there's so many question marks about commercial office space? We hear all about how the the paradigm of office work has slightly changed now. Is that what you're seeing?
On the island here, we are seeing a little more. We're seeing some commercial, but definitely more residential.
And you think it's due to that sort of flux, the evolution of the office space, a lot more remote employees staying that way?
I don't know how everybody's going to wind up staying home. There's some jobs you can do from a computer, and there's some you can not do from a computer. And I think some operations, in general, are just realizing both ends of it.
So you're one of those guys that need to get out, I'm guessing, from that sort of tone. You wanted to get back on the road as soon as possible.
Yeah, I have trouble sitting behind a computer all day.
Yeah, you said earlier, 2 months in, he was out. He was back out. So there's no dust under his feet.
Indeed. So all right. So how about we talk about more of a general sort of day for you? You wake up. Are you at a job site almost all the time? You in the wholesaler? Is it all of the above?
All of the above. My day pretty much starts at about 6:30 in the morning. Go ahead.
Think of it, you're giving a sales pitch to future reps, salespeople for reps. Why is your job so exciting?
It isn't exciting.
Well, they might not want to hear my day at that point, but
I find it exciting.
And again, some days are long, some days are short, sometimes it's slow, sometimes it's busy, and it kind of equals itself out in the end.
Fair enough. So
my day pretty much starts 6:30 in the morning. I'm on the computer looking at emails, answering emails. I'm usually out of the house sometimes by 8, maybe by 9 by the time I get any of the office stuff taken care of. And then again, it's seeing the contractors, seeing the wholesalers, and going from there.
Do you personally spend any time with engineers, with specification work, given that you do both resi and commercial, or not so much?
Again, we deal with the wholesaler, we deal with the tractor, the installer, the engineer, the architect, sometimes interior designers, which we don't like getting them involved, but sometimes you have to.
So from a rep perspective, I was on the Gooding website just looking at the line card and stuff, and there's some very familiar names, of course, on there. What's something that a manufacturer does from a rep perspective that you like, and it could be any of those lines, and what's something that you don't like? This is something we ask contractors often. We also, this is a full disclosure, this is sort of a question format that we ask pretty much all the guests, so we can get the perspective on what manufacturers do. And of course, the experience of a rep with a manufacturer is different. It's more of a partnership than a rep and a distributor, which is more of a a B2B kind of customer relationship. So as a manufacturer's representative, what's something that a manufacturer does that irritates the living hell out of you, and what's something you're like, these guys got it together, it's very smooth, I love working with these guys?
As far as annoying things, I really haven't gotten crazily annoyed. I could be honest with you. We have, we have some great ones. Everybody works well together. And the best part about the manufacturers is you're absolutely correct. It is a partnership. We're getting the support from them. They're getting the support from us. We let them know what's going on in the field. They let us know where they're at with manufacturing, new products, design, stuff like that.
So shout out a customer service person, a technical support person that you work with at a different line that you want to give kudos to right now. Somebody who helps you out on your day-to-day.
On my day-to-day, I would say I speak to Guy at Heat Flow.
Heat Flow? Excellent. And what does he do
And of
for you
course,
generally?
he's in charge of sales with Heatful, and definitely a good go-to as far as doing some of the engineering and spec work.
Perfect. Yeah, that's great. I mean, that's what we try to do also as, as a manufacturer, is help out with that spec, do the really technical stuff. Obviously, the manufacturers should be the experts, and you are more of a, a mouth, boots on the ground, speaking mouth, boots on the ground, hands and eyes in the field, that kind of thing. So yeah, I mean, that's good.
Yeah.
It's good to get that support. So Guy, keep up the good
Every
work.
every manufacturer that I work with has great people, behind them. I haven't had any issues whatsoever. So giving a shout out to one is kind of tough. Everybody's great.
Fair enough. So in
So
your quick,
the way that the market is right now, you hear talking to distributors, talking to our reps and other reps, you hear that the market is really crazy tight right now. It's busy, availability's tough. Are you experiencing that from your end? What are you seeing?
I think every manufacturer right now is feeling it. My advice to any wholesaler right now is really to have a 60 to 90 day ahead inventory. And that's the best we can really do between, shipping, trucking, ports, strikes. Everything is making this industry a little crazy right now.
Is this the most volatile time in your 20 plus years in the field?
That I've seen on both ends, probably.
Really? Is there anything else that comes to mind as a memory? So it's like, I'm a young guy in this field, right? And I don't have the historical whatever, to look back on. Maybe Mike, you can comment as well, although Mike comes from a sort of parallel field. Anything jumps out as similar? Because I mean, everywhere we turn, there's a literal act of God sometimes happening that's causing disruption.
Well, I think that last act of God for us around here was right after Hurricane Sandy. It basically decimated the island. Of course, we got water on the north and south shores. Sure. Getting boilers, getting sheetrock. Sheetrock was probably one of the biggest issues.
Yeah, for me, looking back in history, there are two things that stand out for me, and by far I think, not to say that the other things were not tragic or difficult, but this one was overall was a struggle. But the two things that stand out for me was 9/11, because I had responsibility for the city at the time, and we had a lot of people in the field, technicians in the field, service people in the field, and that immediacy, and then trying to where are all the people? We were doing several jobs down at the Trade Center. Matthew, you heard my story, about the Solomon Smith Barney building, the Citibank building now. I was there a week before. That one was tough in a different way. And then from a financial perspective, it was, what was it, 2007, the Lehman Brothers, debacle, and just the uncertainty financially, but none of them really, the scope, the impact, the long-term effect of it. COVID, maybe it's just fresh, but this last year has been, challenging in a lot of different fronts.
Certainly. So, well, what kind of motorcycle you ride? Let's shift gears completely.
I have a 2006 Harley Street Glide.
Is that like a big? I mean, I don't know. So neither Michael and I are real motorcycle guys, although we have several motorcycle enthusiasts on the Centrotherm team. This is all that they talk about. Whenever we do fun fact, whenever we do fun fact, it's like, oh, this guy rides a Harley, that guy rides a Harley. They're both riding their Harleys up and down. Is that a big chopper? Is that a big hog on the road? What kind of bike is that?
It's a touring bike. No bags. I have what's called a pizza box trunk on the back.
Okay.
Which is like a smaller tour pack, very thin.
So you're taking those on like a road trip and going somewhere, or are you getting out on the highway and just kind of enjoying it on a nice blue sky afternoon too?
Just getting out on the highway and enjoying it.
Excellent.
Just being out in the air and being able to ride. It's a good way to clear your mind. Just get out of everything else and enjoy yourself.
Excellent. Does the fan of the internal combustion engine, do you also enjoy like jet skis and stuff like that? It's like a natural progression.
I really was never into jet skis.
Really? Okay. I've never been on a motorcycle.
I grew up more into cars and drag racing, and let's just say it's street racing. Okay. After that, stopped putting money into cars and started putting money into the bike.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so I mean, you can just say yes or no, and we don't have to go any further than this. But you ever getting away with crimes doing drag racing stuff? That stuff is not legal, is it?
I'll plead the fifth.
That's hilarious. We told Matt at the beginning of the show that if he ever had to plead the fifth, he was free to do so. So it's interesting that he chose that one.
Oh, that's funny. Also, okay, so your other
do you make it up to upstate New York? I mean, we've got a lot of Harley and bike events that go on here, in Saratoga Springs and Lake George. It's like a destination for bikers. Do you make it up here?
I haven't done it yet. I definitely plan on doing it. I have been down to Daytona. I was down in Daytona for a couple of years and definitely enjoyed it down there. But I haven't really done much in the Northeast.
Okay. Fair enough. I believe it's Biker Week right now in Myrtle Beach. And the only reason I know that is because Memorial Day weekend is Biker Week, and I used to go down there randomly because my father was never able to rent the properties because it was all a big motorcycle party. So my father was never able to rent the condos because the place it didn't rent to bikers because of some of the inherent stereotypical stuff that comes with that demographic, right? So we as a family would take our family vacation at that time. So we wouldn't go out to the road. Then you see these giant convoys, the Harleys and the crotch rocket type bikes and stuff. It was actually, it was quite a scene when I was 10 or 11 years old watching this parade of of bikes just everywhere at times. It's really an interesting stuff. So you've participated in those big rides up and down the strip,
I've done a couple. Truth be told, when you're riding with a lot of those big groups, some people shouldn't be on bikes. Some people should. Sometimes it's, I'm breaking away from the group because I just don't feel like being in this mess.
Yeah, I could see that. I will say that sometimes it wasn't necessarily even about the bike. It was about the unclad woman behind the driver. That's seriously what it was at times. It was a lot to take in when I was a 12-year-old kid. What's going on here? But that's all a true story. And I'm sure you've witnessed that in Daytona as well. The climate is warm. It's suitable for bikinis and such.
Lighter.
You could witness that there anywhere.
That's true. Oh boy. All right. So it says 10 years as a plumbing business owner to get back on track here. Now, I'm assuming you don't do that as much or at all anymore now that you work as a rep, but you were just an installer, like as you said, installing Navian. Was that a Matt Gritman Plumbing Enterprises, or how are you doing that?
That was under a company name. I was basically an installer doing all different types of boilers, mostly Navian. I also did a lot of high-end plumbing. Multiple fixtures, stuff like that, bathrooms, kitchens, whole houses.
And that was you running a solo operation?
Pretty much.
Excellent. Do you miss that sometimes?
Do I miss it? I don't business end. Once in a while, I do miss the, like we're talking about now, mechanical room. Going into a mechanical room, laying everything out, piping it out, looking at your finished product when you're done and knowing that you accomplished that.
It's funny. Hearing you say that bookends really nicely with how I even know you, right? Because you're still doing that. Maybe it's not you turning the wrenches in the mechanical room. Maybe it's the fellas at Big City or whatever. But you have a hand in that. And when that beautiful diamond plate is installed, it looks quite nice with those wall hung boilers and all the all the fittings are all done quite nice. And so you're still proud of that work, even if it's not you necessarily doing those the press fittings and sealing off everything in the system.
Yeah, absolutely, because I know it's something I was involved with. It's something I helped design, and you just look back at it and go, you know what, I accomplished that.
Fantastic. That's great, man.
The thing about what you do now is, though, you still do it in a different level. You are bringing together all kinds of different products, from the fittings, the appliances, the venting, the expansion tanks. You're still designing it. You're working with the customer to provide a solution, but you just don't get the hands-on now. That's still rewarding, I would assume, to do all that other, the balance of the mechanical room from a higher level to make sure that you get your products there.
Oh, absolutely. And my knees feel better. My shoulders feel better. I'm not in pain. So
you mean to tell me you weren't using the installation instructions as knee pads, is what I hear happens in the field?
No,
we have to
not.
Fluffier knee installation manual, I think, if that's the case. What drove you to put the tools down and pick up the computer, and what was the determining factor to make that change? Some guys,
the business end gets a little stressful. going week to week. Some weeks are great. Some weeks you're searching. With that being said, the opportunity kind of arose, and I just said, you know what, let's just do it.
Never look back.
Indeed. So I got one last question, unless Mike, you have something else.
Okay, fire away.
So let's close on an uplifting and interesting piece of advice from a mechanical room veteran. What would you say to a what advice would you give a young plumber? What advice would you give somebody who's just starting out as an apprentice, or a young junior salesperson at a rep agency? And is it the same thing that you might say to them both?
Definitely not the same thing. On the plumbing end, it's a real simple statement, and it's worked great with guys I've had working with me through the years. You're either going to carry somebody's tool bag for the rest of your life, or somebody's going to carry yours. And that's a decision they have to make, which way they want to go with that.
That's pretty, I mean, I like that. That's the zen and the art of turning wrenches in the mechanical room right there. It's a bit of a Confucius-esque kind of piece of advice. I like that. I will remember that.
The rep side, the same thing. What would you extend to the young whippersnapper that's coming into the rep agency?
Well, I'll definitely go with what I was told in the beginning. Be quiet, listen, and listen.
That's good advice, I think. I like it.
And again, I was told when I took this job, by David himself, listen, it's going to take you, 2 years. It's going to take you 2 years till you get your thing under you. You feel comfortable, you get moving, you have the clients, the customers, everything else. And you know what? He was absolutely right.
That's good. I think that is good advice. I mean, learning is the key. That's what you're saying there, basically, is keep your mouth shut, keep your ears open, and eventually you get the the knowledge necessary to communicate whatever it is to sell that product, to tech support that product and stuff. So I mean, obviously as an organization with a massive importance on training, we certainly agree with that. We train reps, we train distributors, we train contractors, etc. So.
Correct. And then, going from say being a plumber to being a rep, you're going with that technical ability. Just going into sales, anybody could be a salesman, but if you don't have the technical ability behind it and kind of know the products that you're working with and the ins and outs of it, you're better off. I think in my sense, I was a good fit coming into this.
It also makes you credible with the people that you're working with. You've done the job,
Again, I've been there, I've done it, and I can tell you all about it.
Right.
That's it. Well, thanks so much, Matt, for joining us here on the Mechanical Room. We can't thank you enough for giving us a couple minutes of your time to share with us, all of your experience and stuff that goes all over the place, all over the tri-state area and beyond on that motorcycle up and down the highway, and in each and every mechanical room, from the Hamptons down to Brooklyn and beyond. So. Follow him, please. Navian Guy NYC on Instagram. Lots and lots of great installation photos. And of course, thanks to David Gooding for giving us the thumbs up on this one as well. Matt, it's been a pleasure.
Gentlemen, it's been a pleasure as well. You guys have a great day.
So that was great. A lot of good insight from Matt, and certainly a great install job by Eddie and the gang there. So I guess that takes us to the end. Matthew, any parting last words or words of wisdom for our illustrious fans out there?
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad that we're able to do this with such a wide variety of voices. I mean, so Eddie, of course, is like we would classify him as a value-added reseller. Eddie's done contracting, he's done wholesale calls, he's done a little bit of everything. And of course, Matt is a installer for a long time, but now works as the manufacturer's rep. So kind of continues the theme and the really the goal of this podcast, which is to kind of touch everybody. We're going to get into reruns pretty soon where we have a second contractor on or a second rep, but so far we've been able to keep it pretty fresh and interesting. So I mean, I think that's great, and also allows for a really wide variety of content that we're covering here. So I mean, maybe we'll put out a call right now. So any code inspectors want to come on, let's do it. Fire marshals, we haven't had a fire marshal on yet. you know, an OEM representative, somebody who works for Viessmann, Lochinvar, A.O. Smith, you know, Navien, something like that would be interesting, particularly in engineers and product development, I think would be great. I mean, that's what we're trying to cover here. And I mean, I think we did a good job of that this month in particular with some new voices.
Indeed. We've got a number of different guests that we've slated, again, expanding the reach into the mechanical room. So with that said, I think let's bring it to a close. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us for episode number 5. Shoot us any ideas. Certainly shoot us your photos or show us your pipe. We'd like to give away some more swag. Thank you. Go out and vent safely. And that's it. Thanks very much.